This is a video on all the things I thought was important and highlighted in the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. If you haven't watched the video I posted before this, then you should probably watch that because I gave a summary of the book and also that kind of set the stage for this video. So if you haven't watched that, then I'll put that top right. Alright, I'm going to get straight into this. So this is like a large part from the start of the book. So this is one of the main characters from the book. A guy called Bansir wanted to become rich, pretty much. And he'd heard of a person that was the richest man in Babylon, which was called Arkad. So he went to him for advice, and he was like talking to a friend about how he wanted to be rich. And yeah, anyway, they said they're gonna go and meet this guy. For a bit of backstory again, they went to school well, it wasn't what we call school, but it was like how they would go a place to get educated. And this guy that is now the richest man in Babylon, Arkad, had gone to school with them. Anyway, so Bansir and his childhood friends all went to Arkad. They went to him and said, "You didn't outshine us at school, and you haven't seemed to outwork us after leaving school, so why do you deserve this luxury while we can barely get by?" To which Arkad replied, "If you have not acquired more than a bare existence in the years since we were youths, it is because you either have failed to learn the laws that govern the building of wealth, or else you do not observe them. Fickle fate is a vicious goddess who brings no permanent good to anyone. On the contrary, she brings ruin to almost every man upon whom she showers unearned gold." He went on to talk a lot, and anyway, later on in his same reply, he says, "Being, as you know, the son of a humble merchant, one of a large family with no hope of an inheritance, and not being endowed, as you have so frankly said, with superior powers or wisdom, I decided that if I was to achieve what I desired, time and study would be required. As for time, all men have it in abundance. You, each of you, have let slip by sufficient time to have made yourselves wealthy. Yet you admit you have nothing to show except your good families, of which you can be justly proud. As for study, did not our wise teacher teach us that learning was of two kinds, the one kind being the things we learned and knew, and the other being the training that taught us how to find out what we did not know. Therefore did I decide to find out how one might accumulate wealth, and when I had found out, to make this my task and do it well. For is it not wise that we should enjoy while we dwell in the brightness of the sunshine? For sorrows enough shall descend upon us when we depart for the darkness of the world of spirit. I found employment as a scribe in the hall of records, and long hours each day I laboured upon the clay tablets. Week after week, and month after month, I laboured, yet for my earnings I had naught to show. Food and clothing and penance to the gods, and other things of which I could remember not what, absorbed all my earnings, but my determination did not leave me. And one day Algamish, the moneylender, came to the house of the city master and ordered a copy of the 9th law, and he said to me, "I must have this in 2 days, and if the task is done by that time, 2 coppers will I give to thee." So I laboured hard, but the law was long, and when Algamish returned the task was unfinished. He was angry, and had I been his slave, he would have beaten me, but knowing the city master would not permit him to injure me, I was unafraid. So I said to him, "Algamish, you are a very rich man, tell me how I may also become rich, and all night I will carve upon the clay, and when the sun rises it shall be completed." He smiled at me and replied, "You are a forward knave, but we will call it a bargain." All that night I carved, though my back pained and the smell of the wick made my head ache, until my eyes could hardly see. But when he returned at sunup, the tablets were complete. "Now," I said, "tell me what you promised." "You have fulfilled your part of the bargain, my son," he said to me kindly, "and I am ready to fill mine. I will tell you these things you wish to know because I am becoming an old man, and an old tongue loves to wag, and when youth comes to the age for advice, he receives the wisdom of years. But too often does youth think that age knows only the wisdom of days that are gone, and therefore profits not. But remember this, the sun that shines today is the sun that shone when thy father was born, and will still be shining when thy last grandchild shall pass into the darkness. The thoughts of youth," he continued, "are bright lights that shine forth like the meteors that oft make brilliant the sky, but the wisdom of age is like the fixed stars that shine so unchanged that the sailor may depend upon them to steer his course." It's a load of waffle, but he's finally getting to it. "Mark you well my words, for if you do not, you will fail to grasp the truth that I will tell you, and you'll think that your night's work has been in vain." Then he looked at me shrewdly from under his shaggy brows, and said in a low, forceful tone, "I found the road to wealth when I decided that part of all I earned was mine to keep, and so will you." Then he continued to look at me with a glance that I could feel pierce me, but said no more. "Is that all?" I asked. "That was sufficient to change the heart of a sheep herder into the heart of a moneylender," he replied. "But all I earn is mine to keep, is it not?" I demanded. "Far from it," he replied. "Do you not pay the garment maker? Do you not pay the sandal maker? Do you not pay for the things you eat? Can you live in Babylon without spending? What have you to show for your earnings of the past month? What for the past years? Fool! You pay to everyone but yourself, dullard. You labour for others, as well be a slave and work for what your master gives you to eat and wear. If you did keep for yourself 1/10 of all you earn, how much would you have in 10 years? My knowledge of the numbers did not forsake me, and I answered, "As much as I earn in 1 year." "You speak but half the truth," he retorted. "Every gold piece you save is a slave to work for you. Every copper it earns is its child that also can earn for you. If you would become wealthy, then what you save must earn, and its children must earn. That all may help to give to you the abundance you crave. You think I cheat you for your long night's work," he continued, "but I am paying you 1,000 times over if you have the intelligence to grasp the truth I offer you. Part of all you earn is yours to keep. It should be not less than 1/10 no matter how little you earn. It can be as much more as you can afford. Pay yourself first. Do not buy from the clothes maker and the sandal maker more than you can pay out of the rest, and still have enough for food and charity and penance to the gods. Wealth, like a tree, grows from a tiny seed. The first copper you save is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner shall the tree grow, and the more faithfully you nourish and water that tree with consistent savings, the sooner may you bask in contentment beneath its shade." So saying, he took his tablets and went away. I thought much about what he had said to me, and it seemed reasonable, so I decided that I would try it. Each time I was paid, I took one from each 10 pieces of copper and hid it away, and strange as it may seem, I was no shorter of funds than before. I noticed little difference as I managed to get along without it, but often I was tempted, as my hoard began to grow, to spend it for some of the good things the merchants displayed, brought by camels and ships from the land of the Phoenicians. But I wisely refrained. A 12th month after Algamish had gone, he again returned and said to me, "Son, have you paid to yourself not less than 1/10 of all you have earned for the past year?" I answered proudly, "Yes, master, I have." "That is good," he answered, beaming upon me. "And what have you done with it?" "I have given it to Asmur, the bricklayer, who told me he was travelling over the far seas, and in Tyre he would buy for me the rare jewels of the Phoenicians. When he returns, we shall sell these at high prices and divide the earnings." "Every fool must learn," he growled. "But why trust the knowledge of a brickmaker about jewels? Would you go to the bread maker to inquire about the stars? No. By my tunic, you would go to the astrologer, if you had power to think. Your savings are gone. Youth, you have jerked your wealth tree up by the roots, but plant another. Try again, and next time you would have advice about jewels, go to the jewel merchant. If you would know the truth about sheep, go to the herdsman. Advice is one thing that is freely given away, but watch that you take only what is worth having. He who takes advice about his savings from one who is inexperienced in such matters shall pay with his savings for providing the falsity of their opinions." Saying this, he went away, and it was as he said, for the Phoenicians are scoundrels and sold to Asmur worthless bits of glass that looked like gems. But as Algamish had bid me, I again saved each 10th copper, for I now had formed the habit and it was no longer difficult. Again, 12 months later, Algamish came to the room of the scribes and addressed me. "What progress have you made since I last saw you?" "I have paid myself faithfully," I replied, "and my savings I have entrusted to Aga, the shield maker, to buy bronze, and each 4th month he does pay me the rental." "That is good. And what do you do with the rental?" "I do have a great feast with honey and fine wine and spiced cake. Also I have bought me a scarlet tunic. And some day I shall buy me a young ass upon which to ride." To which Algamish laughed. You do eat the children of your savings. Then how do you expect them to work for you? And how can they have children that will also work for you? First get thee an army of golden slaves, and then many a rich banquet may you enjoy without regret. So, saying, he again went away. Nor did I again see him for 2 years. When he once more returned, and his face was full of deep lines, and his eyes drooped, for he was becoming a very old man, and he said to me, Arkad, hast thou yet achieved the wealth thou dreamed of? And I answered, Not yet all that I desire, but some I have, and it earns more, and its earnings earn more. And do you still take the advice of brickmakers? About brickmaking they give good advice, I retorted. Arkad, he continued, you have learned your lessons well. You first learned to live upon less than you could earn. Next you learned to seek advice from those who were competent through their own experiences to give it. And lastly, you have learned to make gold work for you. You have taught yourself how to acquire money, how to keep it and how to use it. Therefore, you are competent for a responsible position. I am becoming an old man. My sons think only of spending and give no thought to earning. My interests are great, and I fear too much for me to look after. If you will go to Nippur and look after my lands there, I shall make you my partner and you shall share in my estate. So I went to Nippur and took charge of his holdings, which were large. And because I was full of ambition and because I had mastered the 3 laws of successfully handling wealth, I was enabled to increase greatly the value of his properties. So I prospered much. And when the spirit of Algamish departed for the sphere of darkness, I did share in his estate as he had arranged under the law. So spoke Arkad. And when he had finished his tale, one of his friends said, You were indeed fortunate that Algamish made of you an heir. Fortunate? Only in that I had the desire to prosper before I first met him. For 4 years I did not prove my definiteness of purpose by keeping 1/10 of all I earned. Would you call a fisherman lucky who for years so studied the habits of the fish that with each changing wind he could cast his nets about them? Opportunity is a haughty goddess who wastes no time with those who are unprepared. You had strong willpower to keep on after you lost your first year's savings. You are unusual in that way, spoke up another. Willpower, retorted Arkad. What nonsense. Do you think willpower gives a man the strength to lift a burden the camel cannot carry, or to draw a load the oxen cannot budge? Willpower is but the unflinching purpose to carry a task out, a task you set for yourself to fulfilment. If I set for myself a task, be it ever so trifling, I shall see it through. How else shall I have confidence in myself to do important things? Should I say to myself, for 100 days as I walk across the bridge into the city, I will pick from the road a pebble and cast it into the stream, I would do it. If on the 7th day I passed by without remembering, I would not say to myself, tomorrow I will cast 2 pebbles, which will do as well. Instead, I would retrace my steps and cast the pebble. Nor on the 20th day would I say to myself, Arkad, this is useless. What does it avail you to cast a pebble every day? Throw in a handful and be done with it. No, I would not say that, nor do it. When I set a task for myself, I complete it. Therefore, I am careful not to start difficult and impractical tasks because I love leisure. And then another friend spoke up and said, If what you tell is true, and it does seem as you have said, reasonable, then being so simple, if all men did it, there would not be enough wealth to go around. Wealth grows whenever men exert energy, Arkad replied. If a rich man builds him a new palace, is the gold he pays out gone? No, the brickmaker has part of it, and the labourer has part of it, and the artist has part of it, and everyone who laboured upon the house has part of it. Yet when the palace is completed, is it worth all it costs? And is the ground upon which it stands not worth more because it is there? And is the ground that adjoins it not worth more because it is there? Wealth grows in magic ways. No man can prophesy the limit of it. Have not the Phoenicians built great cities on barren coasts with the wealth that comes from their ships of commerce on the seas? What then do you advise us to do that we also may become rich? Asked still another of his friends. The years have passed and we are no longer young men and we have nothing put by. I hope you're enjoying the story. This is pretty much story time, but anyway, I'm just going to sit back and read the rest. I advise that you take the wisdom of Algamish and say to yourself, a part of all I earn is mine to keep. Say it in the morning when you first arise, say it at noon, say it at night, say it each hour of each day. Say it to yourself until the words stand out like letters of fire across the sky. Impress yourself with the idea. Fill yourself with the thought, then take whatever portion seems wise. Let it be not less than 1/10 and lay it by. Arrange your other expenditures to do this if necessary, but lay by that portion first. Soon you will realize what a rich feeling it is to own a treasure upon which you alone have claim. As it grows, it will stimulate you. A new joy of life will thrill you. Greater efforts will come to you to earn more, for of your increased earnings will not the same percentage be also yours to keep? Then learn to make your treasure work for you. Make it your slave. Make its children and its children's children work for you. Ensure an income for thy future. Look thou at the aged, and forget not that in the days to come thou also will be numbered among them. Therefore invest thy treasure with great caution, that it not be lost. Unsurious rates of return are deceitful sirens that sing but to lure the unwary upon the rocks of the loss and remorse. Provide also that thy family may not want should the gods call thee to their realms. For such protection is it always possible to make provision with small payments at regular intervals. Therefore, the provident man delays not in exception of a large sum becoming available for such a wise purpose. Counsel with wise men. Seek the advice of men whose daily work is handling money. Let them save you from such an error as I myself made in entrusting my money to the judgment of Asmur, the brickmaker. A small return and a safe one is far more desirable than risk. Enjoy life while you are here. Do not overstrain or try to save too much. If 1/10 of all you earn is as much as you can comfortably keep, be content to keep this portion. Live otherwise according to your income, and let not yourself get niggardly and afraid to spend. Life is good and life is rich with things worthwhile and things to enjoy. His friends thanked him and went away. Some were silent because they had no imagination and could not understand. Some were sarcastic because they thought that one so rich should divide with old friends not so fortunate. But some had in their eye a new light. They realized that Algamish had come back each time to the room of the scribes because he was watching a man work his way out of the darkness into light. When that man had found the light, a place awaited him. No one could fill that place until he had for himself worked out his own understanding, until he was ready for opportunity. These latter were the ones who in the following years frequently visited Arkad, who received them gladly. He counselled with them and gave them freely of his wisdom, as men of broad experience are always glad to do. As he assisted them in so investing their savings, that it would bring in a good interest with safety, and would neither be lost nor entangled in investments that paid no dividends. The turning point in these men's lives came upon that day when they realised the truth that had come from Algamish to Arkad, and from Arkad to them. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. So that is the first part, a very long part. It's just been a whole story time. But anyway, like I say, it's things I highlighted, so it's things I thought were important. That's pretty important. That's like the whole start of the book. This is now apart from the end of the first cure to a lean purse. There's 7 cures. Now I will tell you a strange truth, the reason for which I know not. When I ceased to pay out more than 9/10 of my earnings, I managed to get along just as well. I was not shorter than before. Also, ere long, did coins come to me more easily than before. Surely it's a law of the gods, that unto him who keepeth and spendeth not a certain part of all his earnings shall gold come easily. Likewise, him whose purse is empty does gold avoid. Which desirest thou the most? Is it the gratification of thy desires of each day, a jewel, a bit of finery, better raiment, more food, things quickly gone and forgotten? Or is it substantial gold, lands, herds, merchandise, income-bringing investments? The coins thou takest from thy purse bring the first. The coins thou leavest within it will bring the latter. Now the next part, this is a part from the start of the second cure to a lean purse. Control thy expenditures. Yet thou do not all earn the same. Some earn much more than others. Some have much larger families to support, yet all purses were equally lean. Now I will tell thee an unusual truth about men and sons of them. It is this, that what each of us calls our necessary expenses, will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. So this is a great fact that I learned a couple of years ago, that the reason that someone that can be a doctor, let's say, and earn like 100,000, and another person that can earn, let's say, 40,000, can be just as poor as each other, although one earns way more, is because with how much you earn, your expenses seem to climb up at the same rate as that. So because people earn more, they then spend more. So a doctor might then have a more expensive car, a bigger house, a more expensive house, and the other person on 40 grand would have the car that meets his earnings and the house that meets his earnings, and then they just end up being the same, like not having much money. Confuse not the necessary expenses with thy desires. Each of you, together with your good families, have more desires than your earnings can gratify. Therefore are thy earnings spent to gratify these desires, in so far as they will go. Still thou retainest many ungratified desires. All men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. Because of my wealth thinkest thou I may gratify every desire. 'Tis a false idea. There are limits to my time, there are limits to my strength, there are limits to the distance I may travel, there are limits to what I may eat, there are limits to the zest with which I may enjoy. Now this is the part from the start of the chapter, the 4 laws of gold. A bag heavy with gold, or a clay tablet carved with words of wisdom. If thou hadst thy choice, which wouldst thou choose? By the flickering light from the fire of desert shrubs, the sun-tanned faces of the listeners gleamed with interest. The gold, chorused the 27. Old Calabab smiled knowingly. Hark, he resumed, raising his hand. Hear the wild dogs out there in the night. They howl and wail because they are lean with hunger. Yet feed them, and what do they? Fight and strut. Then fight and strut some more, giving no thought to the morrow that will surely come. Just so it is with the sons of men. Give them a choice of gold and wisdom. What do? Ignore the wisdom and waste the gold. On the morrow they wail because they have no more gold. Gold is reserved for those who know its laws and abide by them. Calabab drew his white robe close about his lean legs, for a cool night wind was blowing. Because thou hast served me faithfully upon our long journey, because thou cared well for my camels, because thou toiled uncomplainingly across the hot sand of the desert, because thou fought bravely the robbers that sought to spoil my merchandise, I will tell thee this night the tale of the 5 laws of gold, such tale as thou never hast heard before. So again, one of my next upcoming videos is going to be on the 5 laws of gold, so subscribe for that. Now this next part is a story from the gold lender of Babylon. Mathan released the clasp and opened the lid. Rodan leaned forward eagerly. At the top of the chest, a bronze neckpiece lay upon a scarlet cloth. Mathan picked up the piece and patted it affectionately. This shall always remain in my token chest, because the owner has passed on into the great darkness. I treasure it, his token, and I treasure his memory, for he was my good friend. We traded together with much success until out of the east he brought a woman to wed. Beautiful, not like our women, a dazzling creature. He spent his gold lavishly to gratify her desires. He came to me in distress when his gold was gone. I counselled with him. I told him I would help him to once more master his own affairs. He swore by the sign of the great bull that he would, but it was not meant to be. In a quarrel, she thrust a knife into the heart he dared her to pierce. And she? Questioned Rodan. Yes, of course, this was hers. He picked up the scarlet cloth. In bitter remorse, she threw herself into the Euphrates. These 2 loans will never be repaid. The chest tells you, Rodan, that humans in the throes of great emotions are not safe risks for the gold lender. Here now, this is different. He reached for a ring carved of ox bone. This belongs to a farmer. I buy the rugs of his women. The locusts same came, and they had not food. I helped him, and when the new crop came, he repaid me. Later he came again, and told of strange goats in a distant land, as described by a traveller. They had long hair, so fine and soft it would weave into rugs more beautifully than any ever seen in Babylon. He wanted a herd, but he had no money, so I did lend him gold to make the journey and bring back goats. Now his herd is begun, and next year I shall surprise the lords of Babylon with the most expensive rugs it has been their good fortune to buy. Soon I must return his ring. He doth insist on repaying promptly. Some borrowers do that, queried Rodan. If they borrow for purposes that bring money back to them, I find it so. But if they borrow because of their indiscretions, I warn thee to be cautious if thou wouldst ever have thy gold back in hand again. Okay, and that's now all the highlights done. However, I did skip a few highlights because they would ruin the upcoming videos. So the next videos will be on 7 Principles of Wealth, or 7 Cures for a Lean Purse, the 5 Laws of Gold, the 5 Tablets, how luck plays a role in success, and stories that teach lessons. So subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss them. If the next video on The Richest Man in Babylon is out, then that will be on screen. However, if that's not out, you're obviously interested in becoming successful, so you should watch the video on screen now, A Guide to Success from the Wisdom of Naval Ravikant. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.